Good morning, class. Hope everyone is doing well. Today's lesson is going to be a little bit different because today we're actually going to be doing a read aloud, and the book is called Marching with Aunt Susan. So we have been studying very closely a woman named Susan for the last several weeks, and so as you can guess, the Aunt Susan in this story is actually Susan B. Anthony, and she's right here. This story actually takes place in the Bay Area, right here in California, in 1896. And our main character in this story is Bessie. She's a young girl, also on the cover holding up this sign that says, "Votes for Women." Okay? So our learning target today, right, like the goal of what you should be able to do or know by the end of today's lesson is, I can answer questions about a text using details from the text. So after doing this read aloud, you'll be going on Google Classroom to answer some questions about the read aloud today. And in your questions, you're going to want to use details from the text. As we read today, you should be thinking about one big question also. What are the different ways that Bessie works to help this women's suffrage movement? She does a lot of different things with Aunt Susan and with her friend to help the movement. So you're going to be trying to think about some examples from the text to use in your answer on the Google Classroom assignment about some of the different things that she actually does in this story. I will also be pausing a few times in the text to identify some unfamiliar words, or some of them might actually be a little familiar, some vocabulary words in this text. So look out for those as well. Let's get started. Marching with Aunt Susan. Taking place in Berkeley, California in May to November of 1896. Marching with Aunt Susan, Susan B. Anthony and the Fight for Women's Suffrage. Written by Claire Rudolph Murphy, illustrated by Stacy Schwett. All right. Papa took my brothers hiking, but not me. Strenuous exercise is not for girls, Bessie, he told me. Strenuous exercise. There's a vocabulary word. You're not strong enough, Ernie said. It's not ladylike, Charlie added. I can ride my bicycle faster than anyone on the block, I told my brothers, even you. Girls shouldn't ride bicycles either, Charlie said, and they left without me. Inside, Mama bustled around, preparing for a party. I'm strong enough to hike, I said. Papa wouldn't take me along just because I'm a girl. You can help me get ready for the suffrage tea, Mama said. Aunt Mary will be arriving soon with our guest of honor, Miss Susan B. Anthony. Suffrage? I'm the one who's suffering. I picked up the newspaper and stared at Miss Anthony's photo. She just looks like a crabby old lady. A crabby old lady who has fought 50 years for women's rights, Mama said, even when people threw garbage at her and called her names. At the tea, everybody swarmed around Miss Anthony. They called her Aunt Susan, even though they weren't related to her. She spoke about the long fight for equal rights. She told us that children should grow up in a world where both men and women were free. Later, Aunt Mary introduced me to Aunt Susan. Why can't girls do the same things as boys? I asked her. She shook her head. When I was your age, my teacher thought only boys were smart enough to learn long division. We read that, didn't we? We read about that. That's not right, I said. Come to the rally in San Francisco tomorrow, Bessie. Women's votes can help change the world. Golden Gate Auditorium was so crowded that I could barely breathe. Aunt Susan stood on a stage surrounded by hundreds of roses. Her voice thundered across the hall. The votes of all the people, including women with men, will surely bring about the wisest and best government the world has ever seen. I pulled a white handkerchief out of my purse and joined the sea of flags waving in the air. The day after the rally, I rode my bicycle over to my best friend Rita's house. You should have heard Miss Susan speak yesterday, I told her. My papa says ladies shouldn't speak in public, Rita said. Aunt Susan says that girls are just as smart as boys. We should get to help make decisions too. Papa decides everything in our family, Rita said. That's not right, I looked at my best friend. Someday I want to vote. Let's see if we can help out at suffrage headquarters. There's the word suffrage. This word should be a little more familiar to us lately. let's see if we can help out at suffrage headquarters. And remember, during this read aloud, you should be thinking, what are the different ways that Bessie helps the women's suffrage movement? What are the small things that she does to help in the text? All through the summer, Rita and I wrote letters, licked envelopes, and painted posters. As we worked, we listened to women talk. Men decide everything. They even decide if women should get the vote. Men decide how the children are raised. Men decide how the household money is spent. I don't understand, I said to Rita. I get to spend my allowance any way I want, and Mama makes decisions about lots of our purchases. Not at our house, Rita shook her head. Papa keeps track of every penny. The week before the election, we visited a factory in San Francisco. Rows and rows of girls sat hunched over, sewing in a dark room. Aunt Susan encouraged them to come to our suffrage parade. Afterward, a girl walked up. Me and my sister did some extra sewing to help the campaign. Do you guys remember this word campaign? We're going to talk about it more tomorrow, but it's also from one of our old ELD words. Me and my sister did some extra sewing to help the campaign. She handed Aunt Susan 2 dimes. If women win the vote, will I be able to go to school? I couldn't imagine not learning how to read and write. I leaned against the wall to catch my breath. Back at headquarters, I asked Aunt Susan why those girls didn't go to school. Many parents can't make enough money to feed their families, she told me, so the children have to work. Could women getting the vote change that? I asked. Aunt Susan nodded. We can work to pass laws that will help adults and children. I dumped all of the coins in my purse and handed them to her. If those girls can give money, I should too. Later, I painted a picture of the factory girl on a banner for the parade. Rita printed the letters. Here's the painting of the factory girl with the letters by Rita. Sunday afternoon before the vote, Rita, Mama, and I marched along carrying our banner. The crowd cheered as we sang new lyrics to My Country, 'Tis of Thee. Our country, now from thee, claim we our liberty in freedom's name. Guarding homes, altar fires, daughters of patriot sires, their zeal our own inspires, justice to claim. But then men began shouting, women belong in the kitchen, girls belong at home. Rita's father appeared and dragged her away. No daughter of mine will parade in the streets. A boy splattered an egg down the front of my white dress. What do you want me to be? What do you want to be, a man? He yelled. I stood frozen, watching the oozing yellow stain spread until Mama picked up Rita's end of the banner and we marched on. When he heard what had happened, Papa bought me a new white dress. If only it was that easy to win the election. Monday after school, Mama and I stood at the ferry launch and held up a new sign. Remember your daughters, vote yes on referendum number 6. That's a new word, referendum. Vote yes on referendum number 6. I couldn't tell if I got more pats on the head or grumbles from the men as they walked by, but Mama said it only matters how they vote tomorrow. The day after the election, my brothers raced me home from school. Charlie grabbed the newspaper off the front porch. Women lose the vote, he shouted. I leaned my bicycle against the house and snatched the newspaper out of his hand. What are you so mad about? Said Ernie. Someday you'll get to vote and you don't even care. Mama is as smart as Papa and I'm as smart as you. We should get to vote too. Mama came out and picked up my bicycle. Aunt Susan says that a bicycle gives a woman freedom. Teach me how to ride, Bessie. It's hard to do, I said, sitting down on the steps. When you first tried to ride, you kept falling and scraping your knees, she reminded me, but you didn't give up. Finally, I showed her what to do, how to mount the bicycle, pedal, balance, and drag her feet to stop. When Papa arrived home, Mama was wobbling up and down the street. I'm sorry about the election, Bessie, he said. Girls should be allowed to do the same things as boys, Papa. Why don't we go hiking this Saturday, he asked. Thanks, Papa, I said, grabbing his hand. And Sunday there's a rally for the next suffrage campaign. Come march with Mama and me. The end. Okay. So I hope you guys enjoyed this book, Marching with Aunt Susan. Now you should head to Google Classroom and get started on today's assignment. Talk to you guys soon. Bye.